Okay.
And we are ready. So welcome to the meetup for March 2023. We have a full agenda here today. First, we have Allan, who will entertain a little about project operations. Then we have Lane, who will tell us about a homemade pasta recipe, and I think Ludwig also convinced him to talk a little about something else. And then we might have a visitor from Sven, and we'll be planning the meetup for April, where we are going to be on site with Sven. The Orga team for today, or for every time. Jørgen, do you want to start?
Yes, thanks. Hello, everyone. My name is Jørgen. I'm solution architect at Avanade for Dynamics 365, mainly for the CE components and Power Platform, and looking forward to this great group of people today.
Yes. Ludwig.
Yeah, I'm Ludwig. I'm the right-hand side of Lone and working in the same company, same job. And now over to Lone.
Yes. My name is Lone. I'm not half as good as Ludwig, but I'm trying to learn from him in the same team in Germany here. We are working with finance, with Dynamics. So looking forward to meeting you all. When we are doing the presentations, make sure you are on mute unless you have some questions or comments, and try to be constructive because the people are here in their spare time to entertain us a little. Allan will be the first one. I will put his LinkedIn profile in the chat so you can connect to him. Allan is always eager to connect to people and talk a little about project operations. Next up, we have Lane, who will talk about the Dynamics Power Platform. He's joining a little later. And then in the end, we will discuss what we are going to do in April and who will be joining us to visit Sven. And at least we have discussions, and thank you for joining us. So should we start with you, Allan?
Yes, I will share my screen, and then you guys let me know when you can see it.
We can see it now.
Yeah, good. So maybe just a quick intro about myself. My name is Allan Rocha, living in Copenhagen, Denmark, father of 2 boys, tennis and chess player, lover. Been working with Microsoft technologies for over 20 years, actually from the beginning with Microsoft Project and the project management solutions around. I'm an MVP, most valuable professional for over 13 years. I'm also been part of the PAC member as the Partner Advisory Council for the project team. And I wrote 3 books about Microsoft Project, which they're kind of like a baby. It takes 9 months to make it. It's 700 pages each. But to be honest, you'll see today that they become obsolete on the technology side because it's a lot easier to use the tools we have today. I'm proud to say that recently in the last 4 years, we have been a finalist, winner, and finalist within the Project Portfolio Management Award with Microsoft worldwide. And we also have all the badges for the Solution Partner Program. I think that is what I would like to say about kind of my background. Starting the presentation, we cannot avoid, and I don't want to steal any thunder from the next presentation or the next presenter, but everything you're going to be seeing here today, it is partially on top of the Power Platform. And one of the reasons that I got involved on this field a lot is because of Microsoft Project. Usually I ask the audience, like, if you know anything, have you heard about Microsoft Project before? And few people hands up. Actually, it will be fun now. Have you heard about Microsoft Project before? Just raise your hand. I think I would like to see. And I will tell you, even before, 6, 7, oh, that's good. Ooh, 9 people, 11 people. Okay, so a lot of people. Forget about it. Everything you know before, you're going to see something different today, because Project for the Web was built using the scheduling engine from Microsoft Desktop, which is in the market for many years, but now it's embedded within the Microsoft Power Platform. Microsoft has different project management tools, and as you can see, Planner, it is considered a project management tool, even though it's not really my area of expertise, but we use it a lot. We see a lot of customers, but we are going to be focusing on the project operations today, okay? A little bit background on the project operations. Project operations, even though people say it's a new product, it's just, we have to be careful when new products are out there. But the reality is a lot of the things that you see today in project operations, it was actually a combination from the existing or old or legacy PSA or Dynamics 365 Project Service Automation with Dynamics 365 Finance and Microsoft Project for the web. So I think it's, even though it has a new license model, it has a new way of being called, it is actually using a lot of capabilities that has been in the market for many years. And you see that a lot has been improved over time as well, okay? One of the biggest problems we see on most of our customers and in the market is each one or those silos where my project management tool is in one place, my CRM is in another place, and then my finance is in a completely different location. And what project operations does, if you actually use the full product, is really to consolidate all that in one unique kind of a solution. It really supports all those different profiles from project managers, resource managers, account managers, partners or CX level, finance managers, and team members within the same platform and the same product. That being covered actually from sales, project planning, resource utilization, team collaboration, time and expenses, project accounting, and business intelligence. And I'm going to go in details a little bit on the technical parts because project operations, when you are talking about the product itself, it has different deployment types. And this is not very clear for the market, and some people get, it can be really confusing. And I would like to try to draw, and I have a few other slides that explain a little bit of the strategy also for Microsoft, but today we have project operations is stocked, as you see here. This is what it used to be for many years on the finance or F&O side of things. We have the project operations light. This is kind of the new kid on the block where it combines the project for the web, which is somehow a Microsoft 365 service with the Dataverse and kind of a CRM and dynamic sales and the inherited PSA, and that is the light. It has some limitations here, but then there is the hero scenario, which is called resource non-stock, which combine the light with stocked, but is now completely integrated by Microsoft using dual write. Of course, with some limitations, but I would explain a little bit better how that can be exemplified. And I think this slide tells in a very good way as well. One very clear cut is, if you are going for the light deployment, you are not going to be able to perform invoicing. You're not going to be able to do any revenue recognition. You're not going to be able to do your project accounting. So the light deployment allows anyone to quick start with the project operations capabilities on the project resource side and including some of the accounting, but not final customer ready accounting, but allow you to actually connect to any other financial platform. So that is kind of a very good entrance point for a lot of people. And then there's ISV solutions on top of Dataverse or CE that can fulfill the light deployment. Then I will jump directly to the end, which is actually the stocked production-based scenarios. This is what we used to know as the FO, AX, and basically everything is running on the PMA, Project Management and Accounting. But Allan, why I'm calling now these project operations? It's a little bit of a license strategy. Basically, it's the existing model you have today inside F&O. It's exactly as the stocked production-based scenario to work. Then we have I would say the hero scenario, which is actually the resource and stocked, which combine both or the best of each other, bringing all the capabilities of light, but now combined with the ERP side of the stocked, which is the FO side, and fully natively integrated using DualWrite by Microsoft. There are some advantages on this right now, and Microsoft is really trying to catch up in terms of some of the ISV solutions. As you can see, they do not really talk to each other. It's different platform behind the scenes, but this should give you a pretty good overview of how things are actually drawn. And then I like this I think I'll just try to go on this overview here, where it shows a little bit of how you can even identify risk on these different deployments, and also how can I combine them. So let's start for the light deployment. Light, which allow me to use full capabilities of sales, which is the CRM in Dynamics 365. Pay attention here, that is fully inside Power Platform. Then I have project operations on the customer engagement side, fully on the Dataverse, and universal resource scheduling, which somehow we inherit by field service. Then we have the stocked. Stocked now, I have my full capability on finance and on the project side, which is called the PMA in the past, Project Management Accounting. Now it has a different license called Project Operations, and its full capabilities inside FO. Then we now have a mix of things on the resource non-stocked, where I have full capabilities on Power Platform Sales, PO, and URS. I have a native DualWrite in the middle, but, or therefore, Finance and PMA now has limitations, which I will show a little bit later, but you don't have all the capabilities inside your FO anymore. The master of the data now, it's handled by Microsoft. The DualWrite will ensure data integrity, and that is a thing that you have to be very aware of. Very, very important. Then, if you are on those three different deployments, this is native, is standard, integrations are supported by Microsoft, it's highly recommended, low risk, it's part of a standard offer, and requires, to be honest, very low level of integration skills, because all the DualWrite is supported and maintained by Microsoft. Then you raise your hand and say, come on, Allan, but that doesn't work. I have some production, that I have some stocked materials that I need to control on my FO. Can I have a different scenario where I combine light and combine stocked production order? Actually, you can. The problem on that is, if you combine that specific light with stocked production, you have to be very careful. Now the integration can be partially by DualWrite, but is a custom DualWrite. I have to do that level and ensure data integrity myself. Microsoft will probably support the different products, but this middle here, it's something that you have to own, maintain, and sustain. And it will require, I would say, high levels of integration skills to run this. The risk goes higher, and you have to be very aware. So if you are on the hero scenario, or actually on any scenario here in the top, it's a standard, it's low risk, and you should be fine. That does not discard the light plus stocked, but you have to be aware of the level of integration that you're going to have, okay? Another interesting thing that project operations bring into play is because if you look at project operations and compare with maybe project for the web, project operations has an ERP mindset, which allow us to innovate within ERP solutions without changing your ERP system. That means if I have a F&O or Finance Dynamics 365, I can enable and connect with my project operations in one of the scenarios I showed before, and that will allow all my projects to be running with the latest and greatest technologies like Project for the Web, Teams integrations, and a lot of other things that we usually don't have on the FO side at the moment. Even if I have a different ERP, which could be any other ERP, you can still add value with the light version of Project Operations. So Project Operations is a very versatile tool that allows us to really bring innovation to existing ERP solutions. Overview of the capabilities that we have in project operations, which I will make a little comparison of what is actually also part of Project for the Web and what is actually part of the Dynamics F&O. But basically, like I said, if you are running a sales module within or a CRM, you get most of the capabilities within project operations to enable multiple contract types, lead to quote process, quote revisions, quote to projects, integrations between quotes and projects. Very, very powerful. All the capabilities in sales are part of project operations. Then we jump into the project planning part, which really stand out within the market because it has the new great Project for the Web WBS or work breakdown structure, very easy to use. Up to 20 people can work on the same plan, interactive Gantt charts, Kanban boards, co-authoring, high level of dependencies and constraints within the schedule, Teams integration natively there. We are going to be demonstrating all of that later. Materials forecast and procurement integration as well. The resource management also brings a completely different ball game for Microsoft because it really use all the power of the URS, Universal Resource Scheduling, to manage skills, proficiencies, all the roles that can also be synchronized with your price lists, requirements and bookings, which I will demonstrate later, and even some schedule assistance to find the right resource based on the right demand. It's really, really powerful. Full capabilities of resource management enabled inside project operations. Time and expense, I have a very, very intuitive mobile application, web application, integration with Teams with dedicated app, and allowing me to maybe, if I have the full native integration, all those transactions will be synced directly inside my FO. Project costing and pricing and accounts, price lists, all the contracts, sales, all of that already built within the system. I will demonstrate that a little bit later. A lot of people ask me, what is the difference between just Project for the Web and project operations? It's different tools. Like I said, the mindset of project operations is built for the ERP world. Project for the Web, it's more for a department and can also do a great job, but if you have some requirements in terms of sales, deal management, and also some financials, including maybe time registrations with auditing, I would highly recommend you to go into project operations. And you can see a little bit here what Project for the Web can bring to the table, but as you see, project operations has a much bigger and broader, I would say, coverage. Then, all the profiles that are fulfilled within project operations, like I already mentioned, we have CX level with full integration with Power BI. I will show some examples here today. Account managers with profitability analysis, all the AI that is now coming to sales, Viva Sales, can be leveraged within this product. I actually have made a video recently, I think 2 weeks ago, where Viva Sales is just helping me to identify products that are coming from my project operations, my quotation, and generate a proposal directly from my email, beautifully done using ChatGPT and OpenAI for Viva Sales. We have the project managers, which I'll show how much easier it will be for project managers to accelerate their delivery, but take full control of their projects. We will show that in a minute. Team members, they have not only a mobile app, but also native Teams integration that can be used and leveraging with import from resource assignments, resource bookings, and also Outlook items from your calendar. Resource managers leveraging the URS or Universal Resource Scheduling with a very, very powerful interface, taking full control of skills, roles, allocations, proposed works, booking status. I'll show that in a minute as well, but very, very rich. Just be aware that all of this sounds amazing on a slide and of course looks amazing on a paper, but it requires a lot of change management when adopting all of these. Project operations is a very big product and requires attention to be done on the right level of maturity organization are. One example is resource management. If you do not have the need to request or create demand on roles and then have someone dedicated to find the right profile to fulfill that role, you should not enable this feature. You can actually run full project operations without really enabling this part. And all the finance part takes advantage of FO, AX, and everything can be done directly within your ERP. This is the process flow that covers from a sales executive or an account manager, project managers, resource managers, team members, and project accounting. And I will try to use this for the demonstration, okay? But it will be pretty, I would say, dynamic, and I will show. I have preloaded some data on one environment, so I will try to show from the beginning of a creation of an opportunity to the invoice. Okay, guys? Feel free to ask questions and just place them on the chat. I'm pretty sure Lona and Ludwig can help me get that answered. So first thing you see, it is a Dynamics 365 product. It has not only the project part because it's called project operations, but like I said, it also has the sales fully enabled. It has the resource fully enabled. And if you're using a F&O integrated environment, if you are inside F&O on the resource non-stock and you click on a specific project, for example, on this one, it will automatically redirect you into the interface of customer engagement or the CRM or what we call the dynamics in the Dataverse. So that is one of the things that your team of account managers and who is going to be running these projects have full integration seamless for who is running the projects inside FO. When I click and I open a project, is now going into my Dataverse and show all that project, all that information natively connected. One interesting thing, if you have the resource non-stock or the native integration between the two products, pay attention that you cannot create a project from here. So the data is now mastered inside project operations, which is on the CE or customer engagement side. You are not able to actually create projects here. And if you are familiar with the project management and accounting system, I will just show you a little bit of a look at how many options now you have with the native integration. It's a little bit more limited because a lot of things are now managed inside project operations, okay? So then I will go back to my project view and we have, I'm expecting and assuming that you guys already know a little bit of how dynamics work, which we have in the left side, a navigation with all the links that can be showed based on your permission and what you should see, and also maybe your role. We have the content in the middle, which has a contextual ribbon in the top. So every time I change from customers to maybe my opportunities, it will change the content in the middle. The ribbon will follow with some contextual information. And when I click, it will also reflect that. So if we look at our, I would say, process, I would like to track an opportunity and somehow get a proper estimation for my deal. I have created an opportunity here. Project operations, it will leverage a lot of the sales capabilities that we have today in CRM. Once I'm inside here, you see that I can already identify accounts, which are my customers. I can actually see contracting unit, which will define who is going to be perform this work. Currency, which the tool is multi-currency, and product price lists, fully supported also with cost and sales cost price lists. Once I'm inside that opportunity, I can just check and go a little bit further and look at my quotations. As you can see here, one process will link to another. So when I'm in the qualification of the opportunity, I can define or have several different quotations, which is very nice because those quotations will tell me which one is profitable, what is the margin, is this outside the customer expectations, and I can, together with the customer, find the best deal for that specific opportunity. How can I get the quotation to really be aligned of who is going to be kind of delivering the project? Let me open one quotation. Now I'm looking at a quotation connected to my opportunity. I do have the same type of information regards of product price lists, potential customers. Now on my quotation lines, one of the interesting things is you can actually combine different types of project baselines with product baselines. And be aware that if you are using the resource non-stocked, you are limited. You cannot use materials that are stocked within your organization. It's not supported in the fully integrated mode. That means what you see here is a light implementation. When I'm doing a quotation now for this specific time and material research services, pay attention that I can actually connect to a project, which means when I create that quotation, I'm allowed to not only define the properties for the quotation, including the billing method, but when I connect to this project, which I will open in a second, I can automatically ask who is going to be running or someone who can help me estimate the project to build that information that will fulfill my quotation. That means when I go for my quote lines, all the information you see here, it will be imported from my project. This is one of the beautiful points of project operations, really ensuring that your sales team is providing a quotation with items that is coming from the delivery team as well. So how that works, I will just go to my general, I will allow or create a project, connect to this quotation line. When I open that project, now I have full capabilities within the project to generate a summary of this project, maybe add to the program overview, have some business units, some classifications within this project. I can build a real business case for my project with narratives and full value statements. Most important that now we are getting out of a little bit from our sales part and coming to our portfolio of projects, which you can have a full overview of all your portfolio of projects on an example of like KPIs, but also I can check prioritization. So all my projects using some prioritization methods telling me the prioritization score with budget benefits and return of investment. On top of it, I can have maybe a portfolio simulation overview, looking here at all my projects and how they are spread around. And maybe this project here cannot be run this year. I can just move it to the next year. And for full disclosure, some of the components I'm demonstrating, like this one specifically, it's a component that can be built on top of your solution. So if there is something that is not native, I will actually tell in full disclosure for the presentation, okay? Everything you have seen up to the moment of the Gantt chart, it's native within the tool. Back to my project. As a project manager, I have already defined that project. I know that this project is connected to a specific quotation, so very, very nicely linked. I have defined the business case, and now I'm going to look at the tasks or maybe the activities that I'm going to be running on this project. And what you see here right now, it is the old Microsoft project, and maybe not old, but the project that is there for over 30 years, completely reimagined. I have the same powerful engine behind the scenes, but now in a very powerful interface in the web. So I can actually do almost all capabilities that you have in the desktop now directly in the browser with up to 20 people working on this. So if I want to create a new task here, I can just come here and say insert, and this is going to be my new task. I would like on this task to maybe add some comments, no problem, comments to this task. I would like to also add some checklist items, item A, and then I would like to have the item B. What else I can do? I can actually create dependencies. I can create, say, this is going to be after the project charter. And I can even say that it's going to be finishing at the same time with advanced types of dependencies. Once I have just created my new task, I can come here and say, okay, I do have an actual person in my project, but on the quotation side, I would like to maybe just on a generic level, add a new generic resource called project manager and add him to this specific task. So this is my project manager. Automatically, the tool will identify the type of calendar for this resource and multiply by the amount of hours that you have here estimated. So if I type 2 days, is now 16 hours. If you type maybe 10 days, is now 80 hours. Then you ask, but Allan, it's not going to be using 80 hours in the 10 days. Can I have 50% allocation here? No problem. I type 40 hours now, and automatically everything I change in the duration will follow that 50% allocation on the resource. Very, very smart, very, very powerful. But it's not done here yet, because now I have this very rich, which by the way, I can kind of just drag and drop my items. I can collapse, I can filter. So I want to see all tasks allocated to Allan, allocated to a sprint team, or maybe to the project manager. I want to see what is late, what is actually to be done tomorrow or next week. Simple like that, you can play with your plan in a very modern, I would say, Excel look like. But it's not there yet, because you also get now the same plan on a board view. And here, basically, my new task, it's going to be a low complexity task. I can from here also modify, change dates, change the information, create new buckets, but also maybe look at tasks that are assigned to. And if I want to change my new task from project manager to Allan, no problem. With a drag of a box is now allocated to Allan. And maybe you can even have 2 resources on the same task as well, which is also possible to do. So the board view will give me that very powerful bucket assigned to, telling me what is in progress, what is completed, and even what I have to already been completed, what is next week and in the future. It's not done yet, because as a official project manager, we all love the Gantt charts, which Microsoft changed to timeline. So now I have the same plan you saw before, but in a timeline view. And why this is so important to the entire process of quoting a specific opportunity is because now I can actually have all the different roles with exactly amount of effort estimated. And I can start saying, for example, that this sprint number 3 will only start, or actually it must finish together with my in parallel activities. So look how you do this. I go to my in parallel activities and they have to finish at the same time. If I expand here, it will automatically move everything. Very, very nice, very powerful scheduling tool, allowing you to not only build in a very simple way, use smart scheduling capabilities for capacity and effort, I would say, calculations, and powerful way to look at the Gantt chart view, which you can also export to Excel or to PDF if you want to give an offline version. It comes with some graphs and charts, and also assignments if you want to look on maybe weekly or daily levels to give a more fine tune to those specific items. And for the project manager, even a balance of allocations telling me, for example, that the project manager has some tasks that are delayed for the help of the PM in one unique tool. But how is this helping my sales guy? Because now everything you have done is being consolidated into a summary view of amount of hours based on roles, resource, and resource units. It also tells you an estimation, because this project has a product list, a price list. It will automatically look at the roles that you have and will calculate your cost and sales prices. And you can see account managers cannot be billed, but they do cost me some money. And at this point, when I go back to my quotation and I check my quote lines, I can just import this from my actual plan. I'm not going to do this right now because I already have created a contract, but it will automatically bring all the information on the level that you want, which will automatically give you the quoted amount 100% aligned with price lists, contracts, and specific customers that you have. Now that I have run this specific quotation, if I go back to my PowerPoint I got my budget finalized. I estimated my deal. I'm going to win this deal and start running the project, because there is also a lot of capabilities for the PMs when you're starting executing these projects, which means I will actually, before I win, I will check my profitability analysis with the standard distribution of cost and revenue. We also comparison against the quoted amount with customer budget. Based on that, I can win this deal. And you remember, if I look back into my opportunity, this was the quotation that I won. So if I go to all quotes, this is the quotation that I won. So I go now to my quotation. As soon as you win the deal, you will automatically generate a contract or an order. With the order in place, the project manager can now start working on this. So he will move from quote to plan, and then when you have a contract, you go to deliver. And now everything gets even more beautiful. Everybody's working today on Teams. So imagine that you could actually, from here, already say collaborate, and automatically using project operations connectivity integration with Teams, I can just start collaborating with this specific project. That project will have one team dedicated for this specific group of project members. I got a question recently, which was, but Allan, we have 300 projects per year. Can I have multiple projects connected to the same team? And the answer is yes. And what are the benefits of that is maybe can limit the collaboration. These projects could be related, but everything you're doing on this project now can also be executed directly from your team's environment. The same project that I'm running, I can come here, I can start working on my tasks. As you see, it's linked with my Dynamics environment. And it's not only that, because now I actually have done some documents. I printed my quote. I actually have my quote summary sent to my customer. And yeah, I'm inside Teams. All documents are here. But what happens if I'm working on the browser inside my Dynamics environment? You can actually come here and open your documents, and will automatically bring the same documentation you have in one unique experience. Not done yet. Because imagine that you are now working on this project and you'd like to maybe talk to someone. So just refresh the page, because I know that sometimes when I don't refresh that page, it will give me a funny message. And I will open here on the side the Teams integration. What the Teams integration is doing now is I have a team that I'm already connected, but also chats, conversations that are happening outside my team group, which happens every day, can also be allowed for other people to integrate and talk to the same topic. I can either create a new connected site. So here will allow me to say, I want to talk to Tiago, and this is going to be how is the project charter going? And I would like to include a note, add some status of the project, and start chat. Everyone now who is actually involved on this project, and this is a setting you can configure, could see the different conversations that are happening and join that chat because it's something relevant. Really, I worked for 20 years on the project portfolio management area with R&D as one of our main, consumers. This is their dream for many years. How can you track all that conversation around a new product that you are developing? Very, very powerful. Then I got a question actually recently, was like, but what if I don't want to be tracked on everything I'm talking about the project? No problem. Just go to Teams, add a new chat, and start that conversation over there. So if you want to keep that knowledge within the team, no problem. We can also allow people to join or maybe not join those projects as they wish. So now I have already set my tasks. My resources are already in place. Project operations come with full capabilities of resource management. And I really would like to show a little bit of how you can leverage your specific items that are coming from the project plan and from here generate requirements. And those requirements, for example, I would like to have a generic project manager for 200 hours. I can create this requirement and using the URS capabilities say, I need someone who knows finance, I need someone who knows that specific role, and he actually needs to speak a specific language and live in Denmark. This will allow project managers to automatically request on those specific roles, submit those requests. And by the way, this is a component that fulfill the requirements. All the requirements are actually also part of project operations, but we just added a component here where I can say, I would like to maybe on my sprint team, submit a request. And that request is to be using 42 hours in April and 157 hours in May. Now, resource managers, if I open a new tab, they will go into what we call the schedule board. In the schedule board, they can see all open requirements that are coming and fulfilling their needs. Let me just this, and I have a policy here. There we go. All the requirements will actually appear here for open requirements. I can select and use the smart capabilities of fulfilling that requirement. Due to the time, I'm not going to be showing that today. But as soon as you have fulfilled all the different skills, roles, or maybe location, the tool will automatically find the right resources for you. And even if you want to see what people are working on, you can come here and you can see the different items Allan is being allocated to. And I can see, for example, that Ashley, she is a little bit overbooked on this specific month. You can just drag and drop to another place. I'm not going to make that change right now, but it will automatically help your project manager, actually resource managers, to remove all different over-allocations you have in your organization, and at the same time, take care of all the demand. Some people ask, but I don't work in months, I work in weeks. No problem, just go for a weekly view. Now you have the same type of information on weeks, and the tool even supports even lower granularities. Remember that all these resources have their skills and roles and also proficiency rates. So if I look at Abraham, it's very good in assembly line design, and all of those capabilities and data will be used to actually match with the right resource based on the right demand. So once I actually have done this overview, I also have the ability as a resource manager to look at all my resources. And on those resources, I can use what the tool provides in terms of calendars to define each capacity for each one of my resources. So full capabilities to enable you to define how many hours a resource work or a group of resources, how many hours they are available. And why this is so important? Because when you are building the plans, the project and the schedule board will take that into consideration. If you want to have a different overview of your resources and more what we call like a big booking view, we actually have also enabled a grid, which we call the resource management grid. And basically what I'm doing here is I can look at Allan, I can see Allan and all its capacity that is coming from its calendars, all the projects that he's working on. And even from here, I know that Allan maybe in June is going to work a little bit more in administrative work. No problem. I'm just going to add some administrative work for Allan, which will automatically take the capacity and availability from this resource. If he has more work that or more projects that he's allocated at, no problem. I will just open that view, look at all his projects that he's being allocated right now, and even modify directly from here. So very, very simple. And also, if I'm managing a specific department or I'm looking at all projects that are coming from France, for example, I from here can look at all projects coming from France, or maybe I would like to just go and look at, let's say, Denmark. And in Denmark, I have a quite big number of projects, but I just would like to look at some specific items that are maybe in progress, or I would like to see that what is underfulfilled. By doing that, automatically we are able to actually facilitate the life of resource managers to finding the right resource for the right requirements. I can from here book resources, mark for review, and full capabilities that you need to ensure that your resources are well allocated within your organization. Now, as a team member, if I go back to my PowerPoint, and I think I have 15 minutes left, what I would like to do is, after the resource management capabilities, I want to now add some work to my project, approve and generate an invoice, and then look at some reports. When I go back, time registration is natively within project operations. It has a mobile app. I can import from my assignments that were used to also build my quotes in the beginning. I can book or bring from my bookings, that is the resource management allocations, or even Exchange or Outlook appointments. I'm just going to take from my resource assignments. All projects that I'm working right now will automatically be presented here. I would like to add the create project charter and import into my time registration for the week. Once it's here, I'm just gonna add. I have now what has been planned automatically fulfilled for me, but I would like to make some adjustments to 5 hours here, and I worked maybe 7 here and 2 hours here. And in my organization, it requires also some special comments if you are working a little bit more on that day. No problem. I can from here automatically add a description. This was I would say off-site work and approved by my manager, and save. Back. The tool even tell you when you have some comments within those cells. And from here, what I need to do is just submit for approval. So I will submit for approval. Once this specific item is submitted, I cannot edit anymore. If you're using the integration between PO and FO, you will automatically see those approved items as transactions inside your finance system. But as a project manager, I can go to my project approval. All items coming either for time entries or material log or expenses will be in one unique place for me to approve. It has some validations against exceeding amounts against your contract, which will help project managers to say, okay, you can approve this because it's not going against or above the expected not exceed amount on your contract. So if I just go here, this one, oh, actually this one here, that is the one I want, and approve, what it will happen is that item now will automatically be sent into my project to be validated, and not only validated, but also compared. When I go back to my task view, there is an asynchronous job that will automatically show you here percentage of completion. And if you want to look at maybe effort remaining or even schedule variance, if you have done any variance on hours or schedule, it will also show here for you automatically. The tool comes with a module of tracking. So as a project manager, you can also tell what you're expecting. For example, on this specific create project charter, I have an expectation of effort of 90 hours. That is 53 remaining, and I'm 41% complete. I'm pretty sure I can finish this in 20 hours. No problem. It will automatically calculate your schedule variance and even the cost variance, that you how much money you're actually saving internally and in your bill rates. Very, very powerful. The tool comes with all capabilities to manage a project. I have status reports that I can use with status, health, overall issue schedule, automatically calculated KPIs in terms of risks, issues, and changes. And also we can add, like we did here, some graphical visualization to tell you which risks are most important that I really need to take care of, and all in one place. All the different estimations in terms of labor, material estimates, expense estimates remember that you also have a connection to that contract. The contract right now has some items that are originally built, which are the entire project, but I also have other items which are some consider maybe change requests for this project. So what I'd like to show is because project operations has the ability for me to identify different levels of selected tasks, that all the tasks I add under this specific group of activities will be part of the original contract. But if I want to create a new contract and relink for change request 1 or change request 2, look at this. I can see that those items are not linked. All the change requests are not linked, so I could create change requests or new contracts on top of running contracts. And remember, because the tool is fully connected, I can go to my sales, I can see which order is attached to this specific project. From here, I can look at my contract performance, checking what is the cost incurred, the expected gross margin, expected margin, what has been already logged. I can see some time on account manager, and even maybe on some specific product lines. I have a billing environment or kind of a grouping of activities where I can look at all product billing backlog, all project contract lines if you have some milestones that are on fixed prices, and all the time and material backlog for billing. So if I look at the specific item that those two guys, they are ready to be invoiced, no problem, ready to invoice. You now have set those items ready to invoice. You can go to your contracts on end of the day. And in this case, I have very few contracts, but I would like to show you another example. This one, I have a lot more contracts that are mine. I can actually select all of them and create an invoice directly from here. And what that will do, if you're using the standard integration, that invoice, once confirmed, will automatically generate a proposed invoice inside your FO environment. Once I have done that, the job is now on the ERP side, and all the billing, the real invoice, the project statements and revenue financial dimensions can be attached. And I think I have 7 minutes for questions. I think I have used most of the time. Oh, I'd like to show a few reports, okay? That just to give you some glimpse of what is possible to do in terms of financial reporting, for example. We can actually look at all that information in terms of sales, what has been planned, contract value, billed amount. I can go down into this specific and look at the project details. Now looking at all different contracts that I'm working on, effort planned, costs. Every time I change my contracts, the tool automatically generate a contract snapshot for me with all the modifications, gross margin, across the whole life cycle of that specific project. Not done yet. I will close now, I promise. If I go back into my project overview, and I would like to look here at some resource forecast, all the data that we have been showing in terms of allocations, time registrations, capacity, fully accessible to look at all resource forecast by role. So I can group and see that my optimization analysts are very overbooked in April, so I know the bottleneck is there. Or even if I want maybe a team overview, and I'll close here, I promise, I can actually look at all the different teams when these teams are having variance within their capacity, because I'm probably hiring new people, and full control of my entire project, I would say, life cycle. And now I'll stop. 5 minutes left for questions. I hope it was not too fast, not too slow, and I was able to show you guys a little bit of project operations. Questions?
I got 2 questions, Allan, from my side.
Yeah. Okay.
The first one is, you explained the 3 deployment options.
Yeah.
How many % of your customers are from the light deployment, the second and the third deployment? Do you have an estimate for us?
I actually do. I have one slide which is not being showed here, but I have in another PowerPoint where we kind of make a difference. And basically, right now, because the resource non-stock, you have to somehow fit on a specific scenario. You cannot have production, neither stocked items. It's the one that is less used at the moment. Light deployment is the new kid on the block. It's the one easy to start and is growing fast. But the stocked is there for many years. It's the one that has most live, I would say, implementations, because it's the PMA that has been there for many, many years. What is happening is a lot of stocked deployments are now looking at the light and how they can leverage their own current ERP using the benefits of what I showed today in terms of project management, some finance, without overkilling. And I will never recommend you to really build a complete integration with your light and stocked, because it's just going to be very costly. So this one grows fast because it's easy to start. This one is the hero scenario. If you can fit here, you are happy. You're going to be happy in the future, is where Microsoft want to be. And this one is the one that's been there for many years. So there's a lot of implementations on this scenario right now.
Okay.
Okay.
And
remember,
thanks a lot. There are some questions in the chat, but maybe you can stay a bit and try to answer them.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to ask them.
Let me go through some of them. So there's from Sigurd. Sigurd, are you here? Maybe you can open your mic and directly ask.
Yeah, hello. Sorry, I'm here. I'm just on the bus, so sorry if there's a bit of background noise. My question is with regards to the deployment approaches discussed in the beginning, the 3 ways. I think it makes a lot of sense on how it also works with finance and operations, but my question is, how does it work with Business Central? And if you could, is there a native integration, or is there a suggested approach?
No native integration. It will be like this slide. You just replace everything here by Business Central. And that's the reality.
That's super clear. That's super clear. Thank you.
And we do have Business Central within our organization. Microsoft will not make that integration. It is possible to integrate, but it's on your own, basically. And also, to full disclosure, in the sales part, I think there are some stuff done that Microsoft provides, but I cannot assure that on the project side, or at least on the project operations, there is no standard integration here. It's on your own. You have to build your own integration. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. That was super clear.
No more questions? Then 1 minute left. I will hand it over back to you, Ludwig and Lona. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for coming, Allan. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you very much.
And then Ludwig.
Yeah, Lone, who is next? I think it's Lane. Lane, are you here?
I am here.
Oh, our next presenter is here. So let me have a look at the slides. So yeah, welcome, Lane. And I heard you're doing a presentation on homemade pasta.
I wish I could spend all day talking about pasta. So while I pull up my slides, I think for the last couple of years, through the pandemic and now, I think really my focus has been in 2 main areas. One is the platform unification across all of our Dynamics products, Lifecycle Services, and Power Platform Admin Center. And the other is just making pasta. It's probably one of my favorite things to do. So, I think life could be like making pasta, with a lot of kneading and maybe stretching, we become stronger and have a better final result. But maybe I'll leave some of the parallels between pasta and life for another talk. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. Let me know if you don't see it yet. And then we got it? Okay, very good. So today, just by way of introduction, my name is Lane Swenka. I'm a program manager on our admin experiences team. And so really my area of focus and ownership is in all of the IT admin motions between Lifecycle Services for the F&O product suite and Power Platform Admin Center, which is the web portal where you manage all the other Dynamics products like that are based on Dataverse and CE. So our goal is to really unify those experiences. And so that's what we'll be covering here today. So just a quick agenda. I want to talk about, what is One Dynamics, OnePlatform. There is also a Tech Talk series that we've started on this as well. So I'll drop the link into the chat just after the presentation, so you can kind of circle back on some of those videos to watch them. They go quite in depth in terms of what's our overall vision across user experiences, integrations, certainly the admin experience that I'm going to deep dive on here today, and so forth, like the UX, kind of bringing both the CE and F&O worlds together. Actually, I think Allan's presentation before this couldn't have been more ideal, because we will be talking about deployment models. We will be talking about unification, where we saw there was kind of a split on how you manage the ERP versus kind of the front office applications. We want to bring that together. So that's really what I'm going to talk about here today. So we'll talk about some of the charter. We'll look at some of the ways in which we're doing this, and then we'll kind of look at the longer term roadmap and double click into that. So what is the admin unification workstream? What are we trying to do? And frankly, we're just trying to bring everything together in a seamless and intuitive way. So there shouldn't be a question on where you go to manage things from an IT admin perspective. If you're, talking about field service or sales or finance or supply chain, they're all Dynamics 365 apps, and we want to have their management done in a single place, which should drive a lot of unification in terms of experiences as well. So what does it mean to create an environment, install an application, copy environments, all of those things that, admins are doing day in and day out, applying customizations, deploying packages. All of those things, we might use the same words, but we mean kind of different things in the different admin experiences, and certainly have different behaviors. And so that just makes it really complex, frankly, for our customers and our partners to manage. And so we just want to bring this together to really bring things into a more seamless experience. And so as we start looking at unifying finance and operations into the Power Platform Admin Center, or PPAC, we had to come up with some guiding principles. We've got a lot of difficult questions and challenges ahead of us. And so we wanted to come up with some guiding principles that will hopefully keep us consistent in how we tackle these challenges, and hopefully have consistent outcomes as well. And so I'm not going to go through every single one of these here, but just to kind of let you know, like, how are we going about, this unification? And so first and foremost, we're not just, iframing LCS into Power Platform Admin Center. We're not just going to force it in, so to speak. We want to really take the time to step back, build F&O into the platform as it stands, instead of just, calling a bunch of APIs and stuff behind the scenes. And so because of that approach, we're actually trying to build things for net new customers first. Again, they're not going to have the baggage that we all have, which is knowing that there's a split between LCS and PPAC and ERP and Dataverse and, all of those kind of technical complexities. We want to build something so that a new customer who buys, one of these licenses can just say, oh yeah, this all just feels like it's native and snaps together. And so then we'll build some migration experiences on top of that for all of our existing customers, which would be all of you. And so because of that, we're really evaluating the tools that are in Lifecycle Services to see like which of these are well used. Some tools in LCS are not used very much at all, so we wouldn't move those over to the Admin Center. But things like Business Process Modeler, for example, and the concept of projects, the grouping environments together, that doesn't exist in Power Platform Admin Center today. And so if we do build it, we don't want to build it just for F&O. Again, it's all about one Dynamics and one platform. So if we build the ability to have Business Process Modeler, it should be used and leveraged by all Dynamics apps. Same with the ability to group environments together. That's been some really common feedback that we get from customers. That's just been how things have always been done on Lifecycle Services. And so again, that's just kind of the motions that we've been going through. And certainly unification and merging things together, we don't want that to reduce customer satisfaction. Hopefully it increases satisfaction, right? So that is the goal. And so this is the convergence stack. And if you've seen any of our other ODOP or One Dynamics, One Platform talks, this hopefully is a very familiar slide. We like to start with it, but it really shows that we are converging across the stack. And so we're starting with data layer. We're actually looking at merging databases so that the FNO database and the Dataverse database are together in the same instance. We're looking at harmonizing the security roles and licensing processes, storage with files and so forth. We want to unify that as well, and storage reporting, which we'll touch on in a little bit. And then certainly there's the admin angle to this, which is what I'm going to focus on heavily today. And then last but certainly not least is the whole developer story. You know that with FNO, you write X++, you have to get these virtual machines and so forth to do development. Whereas with CE, you know, you can actually create a solution and create new tables and such right inside of the browser, right? So how do we merge those experiences to have a unified developer experience? So these are the things that we're tackling seemingly all at once, but we do have a roadmap that we'll get to hopefully show here's the progression of how we'll release things. So focusing on the admin experiences, we want to start as we move from LCS and kind of leave that world and start having FNO managed in Power Platform Admin Center. I think the biggest thing for us to conceptually wrap our brains around is that we don't want to treat FNO like an app, like an environment anymore. It certainly is. In LCS, it's an environment. You deploy a sandbox, you deploy a production, and that's one-to-one with the FNO application, right? In Power Platform Admin Center, an environment can have many apps. You know, even going back to the earlier demo, you saw that it had project, it had sales, right? Like, so different Dynamics applications like field service, sales, they can live in the same environment. And kind of putting FNO aside for a second, you know, if you have an environment with sales and then you buy a field service license and you install the field service app into that same environment, there's no question on, is it going to share the same contact records, the account records, like the data just integrates, like it's what you would expect. That's how we want FNO to behave going forward as well. So we're kind of rethinking FNO as an application that will be always in a Dataverse-based environment, and it'll be pre-connected with dual write, virtual entities, business events, all of our different tools that we have to keep data consistent and in sync. Those things will be enabled by default. All the time, every time. So you don't have to, as an admin, go figure out how to install dual write, get it configured, map it to what Dataverse. All of that kind of goes away because it's a one-to-one between FNO and Dataverse. But other applications can be in there as well. Of course, then there's the Power Platform. So you can have Power Apps and flows all hosted on that same environment and sharing the same data. So that's, again, conceptually how we're trying to think of FNO in this new world. Also, the good news with this is that it comes with the whole Power Platform ecosystem in terms of programmability. And so from an admin perspective, we have lots of APIs. We already have a PowerShell module. We have PackCLI, a command line utility. And so all of these different things that you can use today to manage Dataverse and CE, FNO will transparently be there as well. So if you want to create a new environment with FNO installed, you can just do that through PowerShell. And actually, we'll get into the demo and show that here in just a little bit. So a lot more opportunity for admins to automate, orchestrate, instead of having to go into the admin center and click buttons like they do in LCS today. So again, how is FNO going to fit into the admin center? So there's really kind of two ways that you can do this for any Dynamics app. And again, we're trying to snap FNO into the existing paradigms. So you can create a new environment, right? And that can be a sandbox, that can be a production environment. And when you create an environment, you can choose to deploy Dataverse. And after you do that, there's a Dynamics 365 drop-down list. And that's where you'll see FNO starting to show up in that list as well. And so you can create an environment that has FNO in it from the moment it's created. Optionally, you can go to an existing environment. Maybe you've gone live with sales, many years ago, so you already have an environment, and you don't want FNO to be in a separate environment. You want it to be in the current one. And so you can go to the Dynamics 365 apps page and be able to install the Finance and Operations app on top of Dataverse in that same environment with sales, and dual write, virtual entities, business events will just automatically snap in there as well. So again, that's kind of the two different ways that we're imagining F&O and building F&O into the Power Platform ecosystem. In addition to that, it's not just environment management, although that is a key component, but there are other things like implementation guides and integration with Fast Track. So as you know, in lifecycle services, there's a pretty tight integration between methodology, making sure that you deploy code to UAT before you deploy it to production, all of those types of things, like all the best practices, right? And ERP implementation kind of details. We want to have some of that in product in the admin center as well. We're going to kind of going back to our principles, we'll build it because F&O needs it, but it won't be F&O specific. And so we'll have guidance that comes in for sales implementations, field service implementations, and this will be based on the Success by Design framework that Microsoft Fast Track has, that also our partners have contributed to and own that as well. So that whole integration, we're actually starting to build that this semester. So what are some of the things that we've delivered recently? You know, what has Microsoft done in the last few months? So let's dive into some of that before we start looking at the future. So the first thing that we introduced back in 2021 was Power Platform integration. And this is that, you know, the environments are in still two different worlds, like the F&O is an environment in LCS and Dataverse is an environment in Power Platform Admin Center, but I can connect them so that they start to behave and feel like one, even though they're managed separately in two different places. So what Power Platform integration allows you to do from LCS is quickly deploy Dataverse if you don't have it. If you're an ERP first customer, you've come with F&O and you want to start writing low code, you know, Power Apps and flows on top of your ERP data, or you want to install some of the microservice add-ins like export to data lake, the tax calculation service and so forth. Those all require Dataverse to be there. And so you can click the setup button in LCS and within a few clicks, you can have Dataverse up and running. Likewise, as I mentioned earlier, if you've already gone live with CE, maybe you've had Power Platform environments for a while and F&O is new and you want to add F&O into that mix, you can use the setup button to connect an existing Dataverse environment to your new F&O environment. So whichever way you're coming into this, we should be able to support you there. And then that links the two environments together. So you can't just delete Dataverse without deleting F&O, like their life cycle is somewhat tied. And this does deploy dual write and business events and virtual table integrations automatically as part of that setup. So, you know, having to go into dual write and set those things up manually is now a thing of the past. In addition to that, trials. So this is, again, building the future state in Power Platform Admin Center. We've started with project operations. So everything that Allan just discussed, you can actually deploy those three different scenarios, the light, the stocked, and the non-stocked as a trial environment. And so I'll drop a link into the chat on how you can get a free license for project operations. And then you can come into PPAC here, click the new button, create a new environment of type trial, and select one of these. And it actually does have F&O included in it and managed wholly in Power Platform Admin Center. So even for like the non-stocked and stocked examples where ERP is involved, there's no LCS footprint whatsoever in any of this. So this is kind of, again, how we're managing and building F&O into this environment context in PPAC. So we started with project operations because it is that future kind of application that brings in Dataverse and F&O together. But we'll certainly be building out trials for finance, supply chain, and commerce as well. So you'll start to see those light up. Actually, finance, I think, is being delivered in the next couple of weeks, and supply chain will be a quick follow after that. Also, one thing to note about the trial environments is that they will include add-ins. So things like finance insights, planning optimization, there's the inventory service, there's, I think, over a dozen add-ins now. Those you used to only be able to deploy those on sandbox or production environments in LCS, and you couldn't have them on a developer environment, for example. You can have them in trials, and they'll be supported on all environment types in PPAC. So we've rebuilt all of the microservices as Dataverse solutions, and so they work essentially everywhere the Power Platform works. Next up is actually, pardon me, I just realized I didn't share my screen with audio. So let me fix that so I don't have the ever too common nobody hears the audio issue. So let me reshare here. This demo is a little bit contrived, but it actually relates. So before I joined Microsoft, which I think was 5 years ago now, I was in the partner space. And one of the things I had to do every single day on customer projects was spin up developer environments for my engineers. And so this kind of demo really hits home for me because this, again, is that bread and butter scenario that you just have to do day in and day out. But we're doing it all through Power Platform Admin Center now for F&O developer environments. So let's go ahead and play the demo. Take a look at this. In this demonstration, we're going to be reviewing the new capabilities for the online developer environments private preview. Let's start in Power Platform Admin Center, and here we'll visit the Environments tab. As an administrator for my tenant and being enrolled in the private preview, I now can create online developer environments that contain Dataverse as well as finance and operations developer tools. To do this through the UI, I can click the New button, give my environment a name, 2, 3. We'll choose Canada because that's currently where our private preview is enrolled, and we'll add Dataverse to this environment. From here, you can choose a few settings that are specific to Dataverse, and then on top of that, you can enable Dynamics 365 apps. And based on the licenses that you have in your tenant, in this list, you will see a list of environment templates, which is just a bundling of pre-installed applications on top of Dataverse. And in here, you'll see the finance development option. This includes the F&O product suite, as well as developer tooling capabilities so that Visual Studio can connect and push updates to these environments. Instead of doing this through the UI, I'm also going to show that this can be done using PowerShell. So we'll create a new admin Power App environment with a display name of Online Dev Rocks, the location of Canada, environment SKU of Sandbox. We will provision that database, which is signaling that we need Dataverse. And the template is D365 FinOps Finance Online Develop. Now this does take roughly an hour to deploy, and so we will not wait for that, but I will refresh the screen and we can see indeed that this environment is in the process of being stood up in Canada. Now I've already created this environment here as the administrator acting in this scenario, and you can see that it does have Power Platform integration enabled. It has the CRM runtime, has the F&O runtime. This was all deployed together as one thing. And I've already gone to the users page here and added my engineer called Uno Developer. And I've given this particular account a security role of System Customizer, which is the base role required to do customization or making, as they say for low code. And so with this role, we can do development from Visual Studio. I've also already deployed my dev box, so to speak, in Azure. This is a VM running Windows 11 and Visual Studio 2019, and I followed all of the steps to install the developer tools on my quote-unquote workstation. You can see this is also not a very expensive machine. It's the B4MS standard SKU there with just a few CPUs and I would say a fair amount of memory. On top of that, let's go ahead and take a look at my remote desktop here where I have my workstation. And you can see in Visual Studio, I've already set up the tools. I have the AOT that I'm familiar with. I have my Hello World application. And because of this unified environment, there are things like the SysDataverse utility that allows me in X++ to determine if I'm connected to Dataverse, of which I should be. And from there, we can do some really fun things. So let's go into the UI here and I'll refresh the browser to show my Hello World application. And so I'm going to go to the data management workspace, which is a pretty common place for admins to go inside of the F&O application. And from there, normally I'm managing import export or going to dual write, but you can see I've also configured CRM here. And this is actually going to load the connected CRM instance for my F&O environment. And I know this because I can get to the org ID in code and everything is pre-connected. Thanks so much, and this completes the demo. So with that, you're most likely not going to want to just iframe in one sandbox into another. So the example is a little bit contrived, but what's nice is you can actually now use your laptop, whatever workstation you're given from your own company. It doesn't have to install F&O onto it like the developer VMs are today through LCS. You're literally just running Visual Studio with the developer tools installed. And when you write code, whether you're harnessing the connection to Dataverse or you're just trying to do good old F&O development in X++, when you push those changes, when you compile them and deploy them, it goes through Dataverse into the connected F&O application and restarts the AOS behind the scenes. And so everything is online, everything is cloud, everything is managed in Power Platform Admin Center. And as an engineer, you're just using your laptop. You can work in airplane mode, off Wi-Fi, so to speak, right? And then when you come back online, you can push your changes to the cloud. Every developer environment is a sandbox. Therefore, it has all the microservices, the add-ins, all the things that we've never had before. You don't need remote desktop to these VMs or anything unless you want to use a VM in Azure to host Visual Studio. But otherwise, a lot of the paradigms that we've had around developer environments just changes completely. It's much more modern, right? Just like you were building an Azure website, you can write code on your laptop and push it to Azure. So that's kind of the new way that we're building all of this together. The F&O developer tools and the Power Platform developer tools are now managed by the same team. So those will be coming together so you can write C# plugins for Dataverse in the same project as your X++ code change and actually have entities and so forth back and forth and deploy those as one thing in one package. So this actually starts to change the way we look at deploying code eventually as well, and we'll get to some of that here in a little bit. But we're really excited about what all this means for our customers, partners, and ISVs. So moving on from that private preview, which if you're interested in getting plugged into the private preview, just drop your name in the chat and we'll follow up. But the last but certainly not least is, if we're moving away from LCS, what are we doing to it in the meantime? Well, we're reducing the scope. And then there was less. Again, just kind of getting back to our guiding principles, everything that is low utilization, no utilization, like features that just, either weren't successful, customers didn't use them, or there was something new that has since replaced them. We've already gone out and deprecated these. And so, this has just been a great thing for us to reduce the supportability, the scope of LCS while we put all of our engineering focus on moving forward. And so, we'll just continue this over time. But I think we're now getting down to the point where everything that's left is used and used heavily. So all the low-hanging fruit, so to speak, is taken care of. So with that, where are we going? What's the roadmap? There was a lot of new things we just discussed. What's the timeline? So this is something that we've shared, I think, in some of the ODOP tech talks, but this again is still the plan. So as I talked about, we had the link phase, which is Power Platform integration, where you can link two environments together, but they're still in two different places, managed by two different teams potentially. And then we have trials, which is building the new way of doing things on these free environments for project operations and finance and supply chain and commerce as well. So the trial milestone will be wrapping up here very soon. And then everything we're doing with trials goes forward into the operate phase. And operate is where we're building all the new capabilities in Power Platform Admin Center for new customers to come in and start their implementation with us. So they'll have the ability to deploy F&O sandboxes, sandbox environments with the F&O app installed, right? So we're not thinking about F&O as a sandbox, but F&O as an app. I need a swear jar every time I say that. I should put $5 in. Maybe that'll get my attention. But with Operate, we're building all of the capabilities that we need for new customers to come in, and they'll never go to LCS. And so that's kind of that Q2 of 2024 timeframe. If we can get there faster, we will. But that's the point at which any new customer buys the license for finance, supply chain, and so forth. They just never go to LCS because they don't have to. And then we start the migration. And so we're actually starting to put together the plan for migration, and it actually goes all the way back to the link phase, because you're linking FNO with Dataverse using Power Platform migration. That's a one-to-one association. So if we were to wave a magic wand and your environments disappear from LCS, where would they show up? They would show up to the linked Dataverse environment in PPAC as that application, the FNO application. So that's kind of how we're orchestrating all of this, and it all does go back to the very beginning. So we put a lot of thought into this. With the migration itself, we're actually looking at leveraging some of the tools that we have in LCS for project migration. So you may have seen this feature released in the last few months, but we have a project migration utility in LCS where you can move your whole project from one instance of LCS to another. So you might do that if you launched an LCS US, but you want to move to LCS EU or something like that. Eventually, we'll just add Power Platform Admin Center as a option in the drop-down list. And so you can then move from LCS to Power Platform as a self-service action is kind of the thinking there. So this calendar year, we will potentially have a private preview for that migrate experience. So for those of you who are leveraging heavily, Dataverse and FNO and managing things separately in 2 different admin centers is just too costly and you want to move ASAP, we will hopefully have that experience available for you as a private preview later this calendar year. And then, of course, once we migrate everyone, then we talk about sunsetting LCS, but we can't do that right away because there are some other features that leverage LCS like FNO on-prem. There's a lot more discussion that needs to happen there. So LCS itself won't necessarily disappear, but all of our cloud customers we hope to migrate by the end of 2025. So with that, let's double click into the operate phase, right? So what does it mean to operate in Power Platform? Again, this is that tenant level view. So the admin can come into Power Platform Admin Center and see all of their environments for all of their different dynamics and low code applications. You can filter, have different environments in different regions. As you know, in LCS today, you can't even create an environment until you create a project. So that's going to be a lot more flexible going forward in Power Platform Admin Center. And you won't be tied to any specific number of environments either. And so with that, we are moving from an environment-based model for FNO to a capacity model. And what this means is, you buy at least 20 licenses for FNO, and that gives you a project in LCS. That gives you 1 production environment and 1 sandbox. And then if you need any more sandboxes, those are a flat monthly fee. Those are called add-ons. And we have these different tiers, tier 2, 3, 4, 5, and it goes all the way up to $12,000 a month for a tier 5. We want to kind of retire that. We want to get rid of buying, whole environments, so to speak. How it works in Power Platform is that you can have unlimited environments, provided that you stay within your storage capacity limits. So every user license you buy gives you so many gigabytes of space. And so you can have 50 sandbox environments or 10 production environments. It's totally up to you, and you can choose how to allocate that and consume that as long as you stay within those constraints. And so we're looking at making sure that our current storage capacity model is fair. And so there's a lot of business model discussions going on right now. But that is kind of the plan, and I see a hand raised. Go ahead, Ludwig.
Yeah, so my question is, will the 20 license minimum number, will this go away with this new model if I move from left to right?
It's a great question. We're currently evaluating that. I think right now the 20 minimum may stay. But again, that 20 licenses gives you 60 gigabytes base plus 1.5 gigabyte, I think, per user. I've been spending a lot of time in the licensing guide recently, which never thought I would be doing, but here we are. So that gives you, I think, roughly 90 gigabytes to start with. So yeah, the 20 licenses, if we keep it, gives you essentially 90 gigs to start with, and you can split that across however many environments you wish. Those online developer environments that we just looked at are roughly 3 gigabytes in size with Contoso. And so from day one as a new customer, you can come into PPAC and create, 90 divided by 3 number of environments if you wanted all developers, for example. The nice thing about that is you don't have to set up an Azure subscription and bill your VMs to that's always kind of a surprise, I think, for customers when they buy F&O. It's like, hey, I just bought it. Now you're telling me I have to go pay extra for developer VMs. I have to set up a subscription. So, this will just be covered to start with. And then, as you start deploying production workloads, then it's all about, do you need to license more users or buy extra storage? So, yeah, that's kind of the model. And that's, for what it's worth, how all the other Dynamics 365 apps work. Is just purely based on capacity. Yep, great question. Was there another question?
No,
Nope.
not
Okay.
in the chat yet.
Sounds good. I think we'll keep pushing. In terms of capacity reporting, so within Power Platform Admin Center, there is the capacity page, and you'll start to see F&O capacity show up here as well. Again, this is summing up from your user licenses and any additional like add-on capacity you purchased. We also have a pay-as-you-go model. I'm not sure that it makes a lot of sense for F&O customers, but it would be an option that you can use, which is, I don't want to prepay any capacity because I don't know how much I need. I'd rather build a proof of concept on a pay-as-you-go model, which is a little bit more expensive on a day-to-day basis. But once you figure out what your usage pattern is, then you can go prepay your capacity at a discount. So, but you'll have both of those options available to you to use as well. Some of the things that we're looking at as part of Operate in Power Platform Admin Center is making environment lifecycle easier. So for those of you who are intimately aware of the process to get production data to your developers, it is not for the the faint of heart. And actually, this slide is very outdated. It's 10.027. There was 6,436 module parameters or environment settings in F&O and 960 feature flags. I think that's several versions ago. I would bet money that number has not gone down with the newer versions. And so this is one of many reasons why F&O engineers need representative copies of production, because any one checkbox that's different from prod to the developer drastically changes the code path that you're debugging or building code through, right? And so this is just a fact of life, I guess, for ERP customers. And there's no direct copy because production and developer VM is completely different architecture, right? Developer VM has Visual Studio, F&O in IIS, and I think on-premise SQL Server and just a bunch of other things because it's all in one VM. And production is all cloud. It's Service Fabric containers and Azure SQL databases and distributed containers and systems and all this and that. So you can't copy directly. So what do customers do? They copy prod to Sandbox. Sandbox, we actually kick out the database to a flat file and an asset library. You download that, you can convert the backpack to a SQL backup file, and then you can distribute it to your engineers. We have many customers and partners who have spent a lot of time and money trying to automate this to the nth degree because it's so painful. So the future is one button click in PPAC. You have your production environment, you click the copy button, you choose your developer, and we take care of the rest. And the reason we can do this is because the online developer environment is a sandbox. It's using Azure SQL. It's using the same containers and, magic of Dataverse behind the scenes. And so, the developer just needs Visual Studio. They need their code that they can sync from Azure DevOps or, Git. And from there, we can hydrate their environment with a copy of production as a single action. In addition to this, one common thing we've heard from F&O customers is that we need a better copy option. Like we maybe don't want to copy everything because that could be expensive. If we look at a capacity model, if my production environment is 4 terabytes, do I really want my developer to cost the same amount as production, right? Maybe not. So how do I get a copy of production that has my config and my master data, but maybe no transactions? And then if they need some transactions for some reason, we can, export using data entities for the last 2 months or 3 weeks or something. So those are some of the capabilities we're looking to build in Power Platform Admin Center so that you have a minimal copy, a full entire copy option, which is what's there today, or an advanced option, which lets you skip transactions so you can keep it, nice and lean and smaller capacity footprint. So Again, some of the things that we're planning that hopefully will make the lives of our customers and admins much more efficient, much more happier as we move forward. And so last but certainly not least is managing settings. So things like environment settings, security role assignments. We want to up-level that to the admin center so that the person managing security roles doesn't even necessarily have to have access to the F&O ERP system. So that you can kind of segregate the duties, if you will, between the IT admin just handing out security roles to a new employee in the company versus somebody who's actually in ERP working with financials. Yes, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, will the security setting also cover this extended data security? So allowing you to limit the data that you can see?
It's a good question. Yeah, right now I think we're in the early stages of this design. So I think it ultimately will have to. And whether we show that underneath like the user settings here, or if that's somewhere else in PPAC. But yeah, we're trying to basically go through the system admin module inside of F&O and figure out what can we up level to the admin center. So absolutely.
Okay. And I see Sven
question.
has his microphone open. I'm not sure if he has a question. Sven, can you hear us?
Hopefully the micro should not be open. I have it on silent.
Okay. Okay.
No worries.
Question.
Awesome. Well, I think this gets me to one of my last slides before I can just broadly open it up. So what is the upcoming timeline for this calendar year more concretely? And I won't go through every single one of these, but we are looking to, again, have the private preview in Power Platform for new customers. So this is the ability to deploy a sandbox with the F&O app, ability to deploy customizations to both developer sandboxes as well as sandbox used for like UAT and pre-prod, and the deployment of the online developer environments that we just saw in the demo earlier. So that's kind of our private preview scope. Then as we look at public preview, which is just a couple months after that, it's the ability to have production, being able to copy production from LCS to your developer environments in PPAC so that you can start to use that workload holistically. And then we'll be building on a whole bunch of other things around that as well, including some of the implementation guides like I talked about earlier, so that we can have success by design and some of the fast track principles represented there in PPAC, but for all Dynamics application customers. So we have our work cut out for us, but lots of opportunity for private previews along the way. So we'd love you to get involved, give us your feedback. The developer private preview is open now, so happy to get folks plugged in. And I think with that, that's my last slide. So any other questions or areas that we could go deeper on?
We have three people that want to assign for the preview. Maybe just check the chat later on. But there was a question, sorry.
Awesome.
Camilla, do you want to go first?
Actually, I just wanted to react, and I gave a raise. So, but anyways, great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you guys for attending. I know this is in your evening, and evenings are precious. So happy to be here and present some of the plans to you all. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, there's lots of good stuff.
Allan?
Yes, Allan, please go ahead.
Dennis is first. I can see on the.
Oh, okay, Dennis then, please.
Okay, thank you, Allan. Hi. Currently, there is some effort to synchronizing the user roles between F&O and let's say in the CE or in the Power Platform. Will there also be an effort to synchronize them eventually? Asking for
yeah, it's a good question. So what I think we're trying to do is, and actually another team is managing this, so I'm just going to kind of speak at a high level from the security perspective. But each application that you have, each first party like Microsoft Dynamics app kind of comes with its own set of roles, right? And so we may not say that the roles have to be equal across all of our apps. But when you install FNO, the FNO specific roles should show up as an option to assign. And so when you have that user list in Power Platform Admin Center and you can manage their security roles there, you should see a union between the CE roles and the FNO ERP roles in that list so that you can assign all the appropriate ones that that user needs. And today in FNO, and I believe it's true for CE as well, security roles are related to licenses. So if you have a license for finance, for example, then you can have the finance roles. Same with like field service and some field service roles. So that integration with licensing will become more tightly integrated, for lack of a better term, so that you can't assign a role to somebody for a functionality that you haven't purchased, if that makes sense. So all of that kind of comes together. I don't know if that fully answered your question, but I can also take a note to follow up offline with that team to get more specifics.
Okay, you gave me a clue. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, great question. Thanks, Dennis.
Great session, and really, really nice. And yeah, I love it, everything. Does the Partner Sandbox license can be used for trial subscription trials? Because I'm able to actually select the project operations for non-stock. I do have the Partner Sandbox license, but it doesn't let me create that. Is because I'm in a different region or something? What could be?
That's a good question. I may need to double check the license mapping because it like you mentioned, there is a license entitlement that shows which apps you can install. If you see the option, you should be able to install it, but it's possible that there's some region restriction. So yeah, it could be. Are you installing it in the United States for the trial, or did you select Europe?
It only shows if I choose United States, actually.
It only shows US. Okay, yeah, I can follow up with that. I do know that if you have the project operations CE trial license, you can deploy all of those as well. So maybe
but I have the Partner Sandbox license. This is a paid environment, actually.
That is a paid license, right? And typically paid licenses don't give you entitlement to trials and vice versa. Like a trial environment doesn't give you paid templates. So I'd be surprised if that's happening, or that could just be a bug. But along the lines of partners and ISVs as well, the Partner Application Sandbox will give you the ability to deploy any of the FNO apps in this kind of future state. In addition to that, we are also evaluating, and this would be there for customers as well. So, but I think it'd be more popular with partners and ISVs, is the developer type environment. So developer type environments today were kind of born out of the low code ecosystem. They actually they don't support any Dynamics development today. They don't have the right Dataverse schema support for CE apps. And that same schema is what FNO requires now as well going forward. So the nice thing about developer type environment is that they're free, and they're completely free. They have a lot of limitations though. And so we're currently working with our business planning team and some other teams just to see like how much extra work would it be to support Dynamics in that way, so that anyone can have a free developer environment. You may have to live with Contoso data, not your own data, which so maybe customers wouldn't use it. But I think ISVs and partners could get a lot of benefit out of that. So we're looking into that as another option as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, great questions.
Any other question? Yeah, Jürgen.
Yeah. Hi. One question from my side, even if I'm coming from the CE side, more or less, but I know that in almost all projects there's a big effort to decide what kind of tier environment is the correct one. When I look at the development stages and test environments, training environments, etc. And I think you saw showed us a slide where you mentioned that it's legacy, the decision for 2 tier, 4 tier, 5 tier environments. So how will this be reflected in the new environment when you only have the capacity model? Is there this differentiation between performance and the impact that comes with a 2-tier and 5-tier environments, or will this be gone?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we are trying to get rid of the concept of tiers. And so again, in the spirit of unification, the first question we asked was, well, why doesn't Dataverse have performance environments, right? Like, do CE and other Dynamics customers not need to buy things that have higher performance? One of the problems we run into with F&O is an expectation gap. And so some customers, they buy a tier 5 add-on for $12,000 or whatever it is per month. But when they deploy their production environment, it's smaller. And so then when they go live, it's just like, oh my goodness, how come I can have a really fast sandbox and I can buy that, but my production environment is smaller and slower? Why would that be? And that's because in production, we size that based on your licenses and transaction load. And so if you buy 20 licenses, for example, which is the minimum, sure, you can go buy this really expensive sandbox, but we wouldn't make your production that big because you didn't buy enough user licenses. So for Dataverse, how Dataverse handles this is every environment in your tenant, whether it's sandbox or production, is sized equally. And that's all based on the number of licenses you have. So if you buy 1,000 licenses, you get like tier 5s everywhere or whatever, right? So there's no disconnect between any of your sandboxes and your production. And also that's another reason why in Power Platform Admin Center, you can switch your sandbox to a production environment and vice versa. And that's so fast, it only takes like seconds. And that's because there's really no difference between sandbox and prod. There's some differences in terms of like data retention, like we retain SQL backups for production longer. We have more disaster recovery things for prod. But that's why there's this flexibility between sandbox and prod. Otherwise, is the compute and performance horsepower you get is the same. And so we really want to try and align F&O to the Dataverse way and just have consistency. It's easier to explain. It's easier to, you don't have to buy extra things for different purposes. It shortens the licensing guide. So there seems to be a lot of opportunity for us there. Would love feedback on that though, or if you have any other questions around it. Yeah, so that's just the current thinking at the moment.
Thanks a lot. Great.
Yeah, great question. Yep.
Any other question? Okay, if not, then let's give Lane a big applause. A virtual
Thank
one.
you, everybody. Yes.
Yeah, so thanks a lot for
there was a question in the chat I'm seeing, and I think Jan asked when he had to leave early if it's possible to get the presentation afterwards.
Yeah, we should be able to PDF that up, and I can share that with the team here. So
absolutely.
Yep. I may have to remove the roadmap slide just so someone doesn't say, hey, you said by this date, blah, blah, blah. But I think that's business as usual for Microsoft. So
great. Thanks a lot. Okay. Both of you, great sessions today. I really enjoyed it. And it's really worth to have this session then in English language, even though we normally try to have German speakers here and give these speakers a chance to speak in German. But this information is really value to be shared. Thanks a lot. Great to have you here. And I think maybe Lone, if you can share the slides again. And thanks. So I think the next topic we wanted to discuss, and I have seen Sven already here as well. Hi, Sven. So there was, or we are now going to plan the next meetup, which will be an on-site meetup, hopefully. So we had the invitation by Sven Mahn, to visit him in Hamburg and have the next meetup as an on-site meetup. So the date would be then not a Thursday, if I remember well. It's the same week. It's always the third week of the month, but we would move it to Friday 21st of April, to give everyone the chance to travel to Hamburg and then enjoy also the get together in the afternoon and evening, discuss topics regarding Dynamics 365, visit the company and get some, I think, live demonstration. But I don't want to put too much detail. Maybe Sven, you can add something as well. I see you are traveling right now.
No, I'm right in front of my sports tonight. So I'm playing hockey on Thursdays. That's one of the reasons why I usually can't attend so often here. Yes, I highly welcome you to Hamburg, to our factory. It's called Arvinger, and we are producing camper vans, mobile workplaces, and separation toilets. So we have project manufacturing and also serial or nearly serial production. And we do that all with Dynamics 365 CE, sales, and all the inventory visibility apps and so on. So that's the reason why I will have a look on this session from today again, because I'm interested in project operations as well. As we are, as I'm running two companies, FellowMind IT and Arvinger, and we are implemented all the processes there, and that was a really great experience for myself and also for our employees on both sides. And I'd like to share this experience on one hand. So what does it really mean to be on the customer side? And the second thing is what kind of technologies we are using, including HoloLens. I think we did a session last year again already, but now having this on site and having a factory walk through and looking what are the circumstances, how we implemented it, and probably learn something or just get something out of the processes we're running there. That's the whole idea. And probably having a beer and the grill, the barbecue. So these are the ideas for the Friday. That's the reason it's a Friday. And who wants to come with his camper or caravan is highly welcome as well. We have enough space there, especially on a Friday afternoon. And you can stay there until Saturday. And there are hotels in the nearby area.
Thanks a lot for the information, Sven. And I think this time, normally we are sharing the invitation and the details of the next meetup about 2 weeks beforehand. I think for planning reasons, we will set up the next meetup this weekend. And we would really like to ask everyone who wants to join on site to sign up, mark the attendance. And we will also send out some questionnaire if someone is really coming on site, so we have a better planning for the next meetup. It will be the first one of this group, which will be held on site, and I'm really glad that we have this opportunity to meet at Sven's location or Sven's company. So really looking forward to meet hopefully many of you for the first time in person. I think this is something that is really also value of these kind of user groups, meetups, to also get in touch, and besides the business aspect and the knowledge aspect, also to get an informal get together, know each other. Yeah.
Looking forward to see you, and we'll have some sports now. Thank you. See you.
Thank you, Sven, for joining.
Bye-bye. Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, I will stop the recording then.
Yes, thanks a lot.